Okay, so welcome to day 3. Let's just recap yesterday a little bit. Yesterday we covered lessons 2 and 3, which were about nutrients and water use. Today we're going to be covering lessons 4 and 5, so econ and land use. Do you have any lingering questions from yesterday? Something that popped up that maybe you want to address before we move on? All right. Okay, well, here we go. So this lesson is the economy lesson number 4. So this one is definitely more social studies focused. We're going to start this with kind of a thumbs up, thumbs down thing. So if you turn your camera on, you can just do thumbs up, thumbs down. So here we go. We'll give you some scenarios. What if milk was no longer served in school cafeterias? Do you think that would the supply go up or down if milk was no longer served in school cafeterias? Okay, I see a couple thumbs. Oops. Supply would go up. That's right. Whoops. What would happen to the demand if milk was no longer served in school cafeterias? Demand go up or down? Down, right. You have fewer buyers of your milk. If schools are no longer buying milk, that's a lot less milk being purchased. Okay, so if the supply is up and the demand is down, then what's happening to the market price? Would that go up or down? Okay, yep, down. So we have more, there's more available. They want to get rid of it, so the price is going to go down. You betcha. Okay. Okay, so now we have an egg scenario. What if a disease spread through most of the chicken farms, killing many hens that lay eggs? I think we probably all remember this happening. Okay, so what would happen to our supply if we have fewer laying hens? Supply is going down. That's right. So then what would happen to the demand if we have fewer laying hens? Demand goes up. So then what happens to the market price? Up. We get very expensive omelets when we have fewer eggs to purchase. That's right. Okay, one more. What if a late frost killed more than half of the peach blossoms, decreasing the harvest by half? Okay, so what happens to our supply then? Our supply is going down. That's right, our supply is going down, so we just have fewer peaches to deal with. So then what's happening to our demand? Demand goes up. Oops. And then what happens to the price? Price goes up. Yes. Excellent. You won the contest. So we're going to be talking about kind of how that price works. I'll show you now the video. Now we've got it. Here's the video on economy.
Earning money and creating jobs is the foundation for an economy. To create wealth and value for a community. The economy is critical to sustainability. It provides the money needed to address the factors that limit our social and environmental sustainability. This often starts with the simple step of planting a seed that produces wealth and money. But building wealth and not addressing social and environmental limitations is not sustainable. All the money in the world will not sustain our future generations if we don't protect our soil, water, and air. The engine of an economy is the marketplace where buyers and sellers meet to trade products and services. This can be a physical place like a mall or a virtual hub like a website. It can be in the local community, or it can be global, where goods from one country are sold on the other side of the world. For example, the global food market allows you to buy tea in Canada that's grown in India, or enables you to buy all sorts of fruit and vegetables even when they're out of season. When farmers have a good crop, they can use it to feed their family. If they have extra food, they can sell it at the market. The profits made from these sales can be spent in the local community to buy more goods. These purchases then support local businesses, which employ people in the local community, so generate wider benefits. As profits grow, people and families throughout the community are able to access more jobs and earn higher incomes. This cycle leads to investment in local infrastructure, such as schools, hospitals, housing, and roads. Investments in infrastructure, such as improved roads, can help truckers deliver goods faster, which enables products to be distributed across local markets, and ultimately opens doors to global markets. Global markets give customers access to different products and services, and also allow farmers to sell their goods all around the world. In this way, a positive ripple effect is created that helps the farm family, their community, their country, and the world. Access to the web and cell technology provides information and enables knowledge to be shared, while access to education leads to skilled employees. Finally, access to loans enables farmers to purchase nutrients and fertilizers, equipment, and to pay employee wages. With more income, farmers can use profits to invest in things they need for their farms, like seeds, nutrients, energy-efficient technology, machinery, education, and bank loans. They can also buy storage facilities to protect their crops from insects or to store them until the market rates are higher and their crop is worth more. Along your journey to feed the world, there will be plenty of investments to choose from. As the world grows, it will be challenged to do more with less. To meet this challenge, we rely on new ideas and technologies to help farmers increase revenue while addressing social and environmental limitations. With more income, farmers can access these ideas and technologies and perform best management practices. These practices not only help produce more food to feed the world, but they also make the ripple effect stronger and stronger in all areas of sustainability. Enabling farmers to produce quality crops and improving their access to local and global markets will be crucial to helping us feed the world in 2050.
All right. So, any aha moments from the video? All right. They covered quite a few things, though. So, first of all, what's the foundation for an economy? Do you remember what it said? The foundation, they say, is earning money and creating jobs. So where are the jobs usually at? I would say maybe a market. Okay, another discussion question. What is a market and what are the benefits of a farmer having a good crop? So I guess the first part of that question, what is a market?
A place to buy goods.
Place to buy goods. Yeah, and that can look a lot of different ways. Okay, so then what would be the benefits of a farmer having a good crop?
He's got more to sell and share.
Yeah, there's more to sell, there's more to share. That kind of ties into that ripple effect that we talked about previously. If the farmer can produce more, they have more to sell, that family can earn more money, they can purchase more equipment for their farm that makes it grow even more. That money can go back into the community, they can invest, on and on. Okay, so a market is a place where goods and services are bought and sold. So in this level of gameplay, you will have more of a say in who or how your goods get bought and sold. It is more to keep track of. So the price of your crops are going to go up and down. You have to pay attention to that. You have the opportunity to store some things. And when you're selling things, you also get to choose who you're selling things to, and that can also impact your sustainability score. So for instance, if your education stave on your barrel is shorter, you can sell some of your food to a school, and then that will increase that education stave on your barrel. Okay. It can be kind of a lot to pay attention to. Okay, so we're going to play level 4, but again, we're just going to play through one country, just through Kenya. In a classroom setting, you'd want to do all 3, but just for time again today, we're just going to play through one level. All right. So go ahead and pull up your Journey 2050 either on the website or on your phone. Level 4. For those of you that have finished, how'd that go? Was it harder than previous levels? Yeah.
It did too much for my community with roads and schools, and then I didn't have any money to keep replanting, and then the traffic came on the roads and destroyed the environment, and so my numbers are way down.
Okay. That can be a fine line. You try to be a philanthropist and then you run out of money to keep making money.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
My sustainability score went up, and I think I picked one investment, and at the end I forgot to harvest crops because it took me way over by a cell tower. I really don't know about that. So if somebody asks like a sustainability score, like what's a good number or what's a goal?
That is a super good question. And it changes level to level. I think the first level, the maximum score is like 10 or 100, and then it gets bigger over time. So from where you're at in the game now, I would say a good one would maybe be like in the 600 or 700s. Does anybody have anything higher than that? Or where are you guys at? You're going to say like 25.
I always think of it like my goal is always to keep them as even as possible. But I don't know what a good score is. Yeah, where is everybody at? That was kind of funny to see everyone be like, oh, like.
Well, I'll start. My number went from 100 to 130 for Kenya, and I didn't get like India or Canada done, so I don't know if that impacts my number.
Yes, that I'm sure that would impact it. So yeah, if you haven't played all the way through, I'm certain it that impacts your score. But yeah, I'm not sure exactly what a perfect score is on every level. I've played it and I don't think I've gotten a perfect score. And sometimes you'll be in a classroom and you see a bunch of students are kind of at the same level. Maybe they're all at like 540, 550, and then like somebody comes out of the woodwork 825. Holy cow, how did you do that? So it can be surprising. I don't really have a good answer. But everybody wrap that up now. Okay. So we already discussed some of this. Okay, what was the highest crop yield you received? Did anybody pay attention to that?
Yeah, I got 100 on one of my cornfields.
Good, good, good. So what did you do to achieve 100%?
Well, I've become more mindful of the timer on my water, and I try to use the best practices. So when I need fertilizer, I'm getting it reapplied as necessary. So, and that's another one of the reasons why I don't have any money left is so.
Because you did the exact best thing every time.
And now I'm broke because of it.
I can totally see that. Okay, so for those of you that had good yields, what kind of choices did you make when you sold your crops? Or how did you pay attention to that?
I sold maize for fuel, for ethanol.
So how did that impact your sustainability, or what kind of bucket of your sustainability did that fall under?
Oh, I can't remember. I don't remember.
Okay, that's fine. But that's interesting that that's a good option for how we're selling our crops. Anybody else have something to add to that? Excellent. It does make it trickier in the gameplay when you have to pay attention to those things, but it adds some like real world flavor to it, I feel like. Okay, so those that made investments, what did you invest in? How did you make those decisions? How might it have impacted your sustainability?
I invested by buying some of my neighbor's land
Okay,
because I had enough money.
there you go. So that would impact your sustainability by increasing the amount that you could grow food. That would increase your production.
Yes.
Excellent.
Hi.
Did anyone invest in someone else and something else?
I invested in the schools.
In schools. That's relevant to us, right? So that impacted your education and your social sustainability. Was there anything in there in the investments that surprised you that you thought, well, I wouldn't have thought of this as a business expense, you know?
Yeah, I started out really good and I invested in both the schools and the roads. And that was my downfall because the roads then opened up the traffic and then it told me that I was destroying the environment because I brought in all of this other stuff and then my sustainability went way down.
That's such a human thing to do, right? We think we have a good idea and then something bad happens that we didn't foresee. Okay, did anybody have a random event? Now, this might have been more in some of the other countries. In India, there's a specific bug or disease that impacts sugarcane that hits in this level. But was that an issue in Kenya? Not this one. Okay. But that happens in the real world, right? So you have a major weather event that can destroy crops. Hopefully you have crop insurance, but that might impact what's available in the market later and the price of that moving forward. So that's another talking point there. Okay, so we're going kind of back to that ripple effect idea. How does a sustainable farm impact their family, their community, and their country?
Well, they become a long-term provider.
Long-term provider, I like that. Yeah.
I guess it could be like a positive outlook on their community too. Like if they're doing certain things, then they might get in certain data numbers, or they might be featured, which then makes their community or even their country look really good.
That's fair. It's good public relations, good publicity. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so here's another graphic on that ripple effect. In that the section of the Journey 2050 website where they have all the lesson plans and stuff, graphics like this are also available there for download. So all of that, it should be included. But kind of the idea is when a business is working well, money can be generated to go to people, which helps people improve their way of life. That's kind of the synopsis. So the closing thoughts on this lesson: earning money and creating jobs are two factors in a strong economy. So there's our econ tie for our social studies teachers. A market is a place where goods and services are bought and sold, and those prices fluctuate based on supply and demand. So you have a good conversation there about what supply and demand is, what impacts that. And when the harvests are strong, when things are brought to the market, then money can trade hands, which can benefit the community, the country, the world. Questions on lesson 4? Excellent. We can move right along. So lesson 4, that is the last of the lessons that uses the farming simulation type of the game. There are games you can see when you go into the website for the game that there are things for 5 and 6, but they aren't that same farming game. So we'll get into that. All right. So this lesson is about land use, more of like geography type stuff. So how much of Earth's surface is ideal for growing crops? So the Apple Earth activity that I did at the very beginning on day 1 is actually written into the lesson on this lesson. However, I have not done lesson 5 in a classroom. That's not what's typically pitched for the guest speaker to do. And I want to do that. So I moved it up usually. But to recap, we were thinking about kind of this apple as planet Earth. And we're trying to think about how much of planet Earth can we actually use to grow crops. So we have water that we can't use. We have places where the climate isn't right. We have places where the soil isn't right. And then we're left with about 3% of Earth's surface or 10% of Earth's land that is ideal for growing crops, cropland specifically. We do have some like very large magnetic models that we will let you borrow for this. However, I did just hear last week that National Ag in the Classroom and the National Center for Ag Literacy are working on updating the data on these to make it a little bit more accurate, a little bit more modern. So new ones might be coming down the pike later. All right, I'll pull up the land use video.
Do you know for the soil thing? I can't remember from that meeting we were at. Is it more or less?
I think it's going to be a little more to more accurately depict like grazing animals, like rangeland,
Okay.
that kind of production. Because right now it's mostly like row crop. They're thinking about that kind of.
Okay.
That's the way I understood it.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. That's interesting though. So yeah, so it'll be including like not just row crops, but also livestock as well, potentially.
Right.
Okay.
So it might be significantly different and we might have to change the way we talk about it, but I suppose that's okay. All right, here's our video.
Land is one of our most vital resources. We build our homes, roads, parks, and industry on it. It is habitat for thousands of species and is a critical part of our ecosystem. And of course, we need land for agriculture. But how much land is actually available for us to sustainably grow the food we need? The vast majority of the Earth's surface, over 70%, is water. This means that only 30% of the Earth's surface is land. Only a small portion of the land, 10%, is ideal for growing crops. With technology, innovation, and best management practices, farmers can grow food on nearly 40% of the land. For example, on land that is too wet for many crops, we can grow crops like rice. On land that is too rocky to grow crops, we can raise livestock that can adjust to the landscape. If we're going to feed the world, we need to consider different ways to use the Earth's land to grow more food. For example, do we convert more land to farmland for agriculture, or do we use the land we currently have, but increase productivity to increase crop yields? We have the power to influence how much land is used for things like agriculture, urban development, industry development, oil and gas, mining, and forestry. The choices we make with the land can bring both the social and economic benefits, ensuring sustainable development. But achieving a sustainable balance requires a great deal of thought. For example, if you want to increase your agricultural land, what are you willing to give up? Natural habitats, industries, homes, recreation? You could convert natural habitats, but there will be consequences. For example, the Amazon is home to thousands of different and unique living things. And because of this, it plays an important role in helping regulate the Earth's atmosphere and ecosystem. Therefore, before you decide what you're going to change, it is important to understand how one choice about land use will impact another. To feed the world sustainably, we will need to increase food production on the same amount or on even less land than is currently available. It is estimated that a hectare of productive land, roughly the size of 2 soccer fields, is lost every 8 seconds. Growing more food on the land that is already available to us is only possible through the use of best management practices. Let's take a look at how farmers are using best management practices to help ensure that they can grow food sustainably. precise application of crop nutrients, making sure crops are watered at the best time of day, planting shelter belts or hedge trees, replenishing soil nutrients used by the plants during growth. Sometimes best management practices are more costly, but when they are used, they can have a positive impact on our environments, our crop yields, our economic growth, and our society. This helps us move towards our goal. And it's not just best practices on farmland that needs to be implemented. Urban best management practices are also important. Expanding cities upwards rather than outwards allows for more homes on less land. Retaining wetlands within communities helps filter nutrients and runoff. In developed countries like Canada and the US, food is thrown out and overconsumed. In developing countries like Kenya, food is lost to unreliable storage and transportation. You may not think it, but hunger is often caused by food waste and inequality, and not scarcity. Land is the source of life, but it is limited. It cannot be replaced or constructed. We need to reduce food waste and grow more food on existing land using best management practices so that we can sustainably maximize the land's full potential.
Okay. So, this is such an interesting lesson, I feel, because it splits things up so well and it talks about land use in a really interesting way. So why is land a precious resource?
There's only so much.
There's only so much. We can't really make more of it, unfortunately. And we use our land for a variety of different things. Recreation, all of our natural spaces, all of our parks, all of our wonderful outdoor areas. And then also our agriculture, our production areas, grazing, row crops, and then also our urban spaces. So those three kind of buckets are what they talk about mostly in this lesson: the natural spaces, the farmland spaces, and the urban spaces. So in those natural spaces, we're talking about habitats. In our urban areas, we're talking about businesses and industries. This graphic kind of leads into the where are people at idea. So this map kind of shows that population density. Where do you see there's a lot of population density? Where are some of our hubs?
I mean, India.
Yeah, India.
China.
Yeah.
The US, so like California, Florida. I guess you have like in the US to be a lot of the bigger like major cities like Chicago, Los Angeles, Minneapolis. Actually, surprised Minnesota's not more, but it's pretty big compared to the big cities.
Right. Yeah. I do find that interesting. The difference is just state to state in the US. And then also in England, we see some more, and more in Central Europe. Yeah, and the interesting thing is that kind of lines up with where our food land is, which makes sense, right? Our ancestors found a place that said, hey, this is close to water. Hey, there's good soil. We've got plants growing. It makes sense for me to live where the food is. But now that means there's lots of big cities in some of the best places to grow food. So we're met with kind of an interesting challenge there. Okay, so here's kind of where they're addressing that kind of difference between the cropland and the rangeland. So 3% of Earth's surface, 10% of the land has ideal growing conditions for cropland, but we can use nearly 40% to provide food with grazing livestock. So goats need considerably less nice land than corn does. Okay, so now we're going to talk more about those best management practices, but it's framed a little bit differently because we're talking about land use. So how do we improve our land use choices so that we can feed a growing world and still have a high quality of life and a high quality environment? Okay, so this portion, this is a game, another game you can play. It is considerably shorter, and it's pretty fun. Okay, so go ahead and play level 5A. We're not going to do the 5B together today. It's just kind of different. We'll talk about that later. But go ahead and open up the game to play 5A. All right, so as we're getting wrapped up, what did you notice about that level? Any likes, dislikes, surprising things? We can chug along then. Okay, so in this level of the game, they first kind of talk about the proportion of land use. I personally think that's a really neat addition because my guess is always off, and I've done this several times. Like I think it's pretty surprising to see that, and yeah, just to kind of wrangle with that in your head. But they were talking about the best management practices for all of these different spaces. So for our natural habitats, we're talking about things that you would tell your kids at the park: don't leave your garbage places, we're cleaning up after yourselves, planting native species and removing invasive species. We talk about this in agriculture too, about invasive species, but that it acts similarly in natural spaces. And then just taking action about stewardship. Does anybody else have ideas about natural area stewardship? Cool. Okay, so agricultural best management practices. This ties into a lot of the stuff that we were doing in levels 1 through 4, right? So we're talking about improving soil health so it can take care of itself better, so it can just maintain the health and the water and the nutrients that it needs to. Using the technology available to us to be efficient in our choices, to make good use of the things that we can, and then sustainably use the land we already have in production instead of making new land or tilling up new area, clearing new spaces. We have places, we can use it responsibly. So for urban growth, I think this is another really interesting part of the lesson. Urban wetlands and riparian areas, I've started to see some of these in places. I also know that here in the state of Iowa, there are grant programs available to install wetlands. I don't know about if it's specifically for agricultural purposes or if they can be used for urban purposes too, but that's kind of interesting. Just a neat way to talk about the filtration, the natural filtration that happens in wetlands. Going back to the food waste, only buying what you need, not tossing what you think you have high hopes for, and building up instead of out. We've built out a lot, that urban sprawl. So to wrap up this lesson, again, 3% of Earth's total surface or 10% of the land is ideal for growing the crops. And our urban areas were mostly built on cropland because that's what made sense to our ancestors, and it would make sense to me today too, to live where the food is. I would love to live where all the food is. And the quality of soil underneath our homes and businesses can be a challenge to food production. So that arable farmland a lot of the times is right where the city sprawl tends to be. So every land decision we make has a consequence. So trying to think through those consequences when we make all of those little decisions. Okay, so I'm not going to tell you to play the 5B right now because it's pretty extensive. You can play 5B later if you'd like to. So the way that one is set up, there is a video you can watch, a kind of informational video, but then the level is kind of like a quiz game. It's kind of like a trivia game. So there's some like matching things or some short answer questions. There's some like just kind of guessing. I played through it earlier today. It's pretty tricky, but it's more about trivia of Kenya, India, and Canada. So you can play that on your own if you'd like to. It is more kind of like a quiz bowl kind of thing. All right, I did leave this enriching activity slide in here. We're not going to go through this right now, but I wanted this to be in the slides when I send them out to you after we're all done with all this, so you have it. They have a lot of enriching activities throughout in these PowerPoints and in these lesson plans, different TED Talks, things like that. 5C. Amy, did you mean 5B or?
I'm at 5B. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I was like, 5C, did they add something today? No, yeah. I haven't done lesson 5 in a classroom before at all. But if I were to do it in a classroom, I think I would only do 5B if I really had a lot of time. It's fun, and I can see kids getting kind of competitive with it, but it does take like 10 or 12 minutes. So unless you have, 15 extra minutes, I maybe wouldn't do it in a classroom.
So you normally just do the first 4?
If I was going to go into a classroom and I had 2 class periods, I would probably do 1, 2, and 6.
1, 2. Okay.
Yeah. Level 1 you can get through faster because the gameplay is shorter. So you can maybe do 1 you can do 1 on its own, and 6 is shorter too. So that tends to work out okay. More than that could be tricky in 2 class periods.
How long are the class periods you're in?
The last one I did was block scheduling, so that was really nice. That was, I think theirs was like an hour 15 or maybe an hour and a half. I have done 45-minute class periods, but I do try to trim the fat a little bit when I do 45-minute class periods. Other questions on that, on 4 and 5? Okay. Well, feel free to, if you think of something later, you can email me or call me, send me a text, whatever makes sense to you. But yeah, well, you don't really have extra homework tonight. If you'd like to play through India and Canada on the econ level, you can. That would be a good thing to do. You can play through 5B if you'd like to. And then if you haven't already made that teacher registered account on Journey 2050, that can be helpful for you too. But if there are no other questions, I will see you again tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Have a good one.
Thanks.